All right, we are live on Facebook and live on Instagram. So just thought I'd come on here just a little while and let's talk a little bit about a topic called principles and priorities. Those are two words that Americans in the last probably 40 years have completely lost. Principles and priorities. Yeah, so straight out the gate, President Trump, back in 2020, used the quote during the quote-unquote COVID, which was the flu, all right? And he said specifically, the cure cannot be bigger than the problem. The cure cannot be bigger than the problem. Well, all you got to do is take that same phrase, but take the word cure, delete it, and put a word in like solution. The solution cannot be bigger than the problem. Real simple. See, what Americans don't have are principles and priorities. And then also prevention skills. What Americans do, the Americans that we know, a lot of your family, a lot of your friends, want to wait till you get 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, and oh boy, are you experts? Oh, hell hath no fury. Experts and but where were you when it was happening? People wonder, why do I know so much? How do I know so much? Why and how? Priorities. Principles. I was raised by them. Now, those are two things that I personally believe that you got to be born with. But then again, on the flip side, I do believe if you're a person who's good, upright, and moral, you could probably learn them if you don't have them. Not everybody had the same opportunity that I had to grow up with the grandparents and the parents that I had. But the reason why I am like the way I am, again, is my heritage, is my lineage. I am a Native American, but I'm also a son of the Confederacy and the son of the Revolution. So my family dates back no matter what. But more specifically, my grandfather, one of my grandfathers, farmer, he was 80 years old when he passed away, and I was 10 years old. He would be 114 years old today if he were alive. So I was raised by a father who was 41 years old when he had me. I was raised by a father that didn't get a TV until he was 19 years old. Didn't see a TV until he was 8 or 9 years old. Listened to a radio growing up. Just my dad. If you told that to a 16 or 17 or 20-year-old today, they'd think, oh my gosh, you're ancient. And I'm like, no, I'll be 43 years old next week. Not that old. That was just my father. And then my grandfather. Only one of my great-grandparents was born in the 1900s. It's not that far back to our foundation, to your lineage, to your heritage. It's not that far back. You make it that far, though. And you get spoiled. I like to use the term spoilt. All right, slang terms. Spoilt. You're spoilt. You're ruined. You're ruined because of where we are. Technology, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But Americans, most Americans, not you patriots, there's a lot of you that support me. And it's not just, it ain't about me, it's about us. And those who know me, you know that. But your family and friends, majority of your family and friends, those Americans, they're prisoners. They're prisoners. One, by design. Two, by choice. There's no excuses at this point that people can look at a ball cap on the side. And, I mean, it's every day on President Trump's ball cap. All day, every day. And in the new documentary for Melania, they make an emphasis on 45-47. You have no excuses to be lazy, complacent, whining, and still feeding like piranhas on drama. You have no excuses whatsoever. With today's technology, you have zero excuses. So a lot of it's by design because that's what the swamp wanted. They wanted chaos. It's one of my terms, one of my quotes that I quote. Chaos plus division equals power acquisition. They get everybody stirred up on all these different topics and subjects, but it's not really a topic and a subject. There's no principle, there's no standards, there's no priorities with any of these quote-unquote subjects that they got every American stewing over whatsoever. Most Americans are prisoners. You're told what you're going to consume. It's up to you to say, no more, no mas. It's up to you. You have that power and control. It's the same thing when I talk about country music. Oh, don't drop off yet, though. Oh, I'm not going to talk about country music tonight. So y'all, all you butthurt country music fans, don't fall off. Don't go running. Don't click off. I know how you do. When I start talking about country music, the viewership drops. Woo! Preach! Y'all put people on a pedestal that don't need to be on a pedestal. You support corporate, woke, DEI trash. Then you want to turn around whenever they do something and get mad at it. Because you have no preventive skills. You have no critical thinking. You have no kind of analytical thinking. You have no kind of creative thinking. You have no kind of thinking whatsoever because you are a prisoner of what you're told you're going to consume, and you just lay down and take it. So everything that most Americans are stewing over right now, mad over right now, guess what? You caused it. It's your fault. So you should be in a mirror somewhere, looking in a mirror, analyzing yourself, because it's your fault. You let Jeffrey Epstein free for 21 years. You did that. You let these people roam. You let these people do what they wanted to do. You do that. It's the same thing with country music. It's all a rigged system. And they tell you what you're going to consume. And you just lay down and take it. You just open your mouth up like the little baby birds in a nest. Go on, drop off. Go on, click off the page. Go ahead, click off the podcast. Go ahead. Do what you normally do. Most Americans want to build a bare truth around your truth. We are in a want society. Want. We're not in a need society. Nobody here is in a need society. Everybody has everything they need. If you're on the internet watching a video, you have everything that you need. You're in a want society. We have people who worship football. We have people who worship music. We have people who, athletes being paid hundreds of millions of dollars to catch a pigskin and then turn around and whine and gripe and fuss, kneel down during the anthem. Hell hath no fury on Tim Tebow. Guy who kneels down to pray. Oh, he is, this guy, we got to get him out of here. But a Muslim, a piece of trash Muslim, kneels down and, oh boy, he's a hero. Your priorities out of line, Americans. And most of you are Christians. Quote unquote. That's why you lost your boy, Charlie Kirk. President Trump, one of his speeches was at Turning Point USA before the election. And what did he say? The biggest population of people who do not vote in America are Christians and gun owners. But boy, are y'all judgmental. Y'all know everything. You are holier than thou. Everybody's guilty but you. Ooh, boy, it's cold down here in the South, but it's warming up in here right now. We're in a want society. A lot of these Americans I'm describing are females who watch a show called The Bachelor. 29 years The Bachelor and The Bachelorette have been going. 29 years. And y'all wonder what happened to the word love. You wonder what happened to the word commitment. You wonder what happened to all the things that my grandparents and that generation, they didn't date each other. They didn't go on dates. They didn't argue about where they were going to go eat. None of this wants materialistic society. My grandparents didn't even get to court each other but about a month, both sets. Then one of them eloped, and they were married 51 years and never had a honeymoon. But oh, you holier than thous, oh, you Epstein experts, all of you holier than thou people. How many of y'all are watching The Bachelor? Go ahead, click off. You feel guilty, you're going to leave. I know how that works. The Bachelor. So let me just paint this picture really quick. So if a guy like me, single, never been married, no kids, 42 years old, I'll be 43 next week. I get 25 women in my household. And my neighbors hear about it. Guess what I am? I'm a whore. Male whore. He's got women in and out of there, left and right, son. I mean, he's got them rolling and strolling. But, hold on, there's just one key piece that Americans do. Camera crews come around, set it up here, put the light in here, put the light over there, put the light right here, put a hot tub right here, 24 roses, 25 girls. Here's the plot. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what you're going to say. You get 1 hour in this show, and you get to kiss them all, love them all, hug them all, and you know what them all. And at the end, you give X amount of roses until you axe one off every week. And you Americans call that romance. Reality TV. No principles in America. A guy has 25 girls in his house, he's a whore. Put cameras around him, he's a gentleman. You have some voice come in there. Like Dan Rather on NBC, and hey, this guy right here, he grew up in Southeast Texas, and he's a cowboy, and he does this. He goes to church on Sunday, blah, 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 blah. Take the cameras away. Take the lights away. Take everything away. Same girls come over. He's a whore. Online. Look what social media has done to society. Really think about what social media has done to society. Look at what emails and text messages have done to communication. How many relationships have you been in? Business, friends, family, doesn't matter. They all apply. Look at all of the text messages that have been misconstrued, misread, misjudged, didn't go through. You didn't send a text. You didn't read it. You read it. You didn't respond. You didn't respond in time. What are you doing? You must be cheating. Think of all of the things that non-communication, real communication, has done to society. Then apply all the people on social media in the comment boxes every day, all day, every day. They have a short shelf life. But people are in them all day, every day, all day, every day. Look at writing versus typing. I write out my notes. I handwrite all my notes. To this day, I have the scripts that I hand wrote, my 3 #1 bestsellers, the outlines too. Handwrite them. I have the brainstorm where I just wrote all of the ideas and topics and subjects and chapters that I wanted to talk about. Then I have the portion where I took that and went over and I put them in the order of which I wanted to write them in. How many of you have written a letter lately? How many of you grew up writing letters that haven't written a letter lately? Just a letter or a note. Think about it. Think about what, if you're over 40, you wrote love letters, you passed them in class. Remember the little thing that had a little, remember that? And then it led to where you open it up. And, oh, Snookums, honey pie. Snooky, Snooky, I'll see you after class, baby. Remember that little thing? Remember that? Yeah. So, remember all the stuff? I mean, something that simple has made things so complex. Americans, on average, you don't think about others first. Nobody puts the other first. No one thinks about your neighbor first. No one thinks about your friend first, your family first, or whoever first. There's a huge difference. Like, for example, again, my parents, my mother, every time I go on a podcast, my mother will send me a message. She'll say, take God with you. Well, I think of that in the back of my mind. I go, okay, don't say a slur word. Do not say a word. Don't say it. But I'll get to rattling and I'll slip one out every now and then, and she don't beat me up for it. But think about it. I think about that. I have family who hold me accountable. I have family, every time I'm around them, they'll say, well, I can't share this video because you said this word in it. But I have a thing called conviction. Most Christians, you don't have conviction anymore. You don't even know what that word is. You have no priorities. You have no principles, you have no standards, and you have zero conviction. Because the Bible says we're all guilty. Straight out the gate. We're all guilty. But that don't mean that you can go rob a bank, get away with it, then ask forgiveness later. Can't do that. which means you always have to be preventive. You always have to be in a mindset of prevention first. Are you going to sin? Yep. But if you're striving to be like the man you claim you're serving, the Bible isn't about love. Love is all over the Bible, but the Bible is about change. It's about repentance. It's about forgiveness and changing. It says not to be part of the world. And we're all guilty, but if we condone something, if we justify something, you're even more guilty. God knows your heart. He knows if you honestly slipped up. He knows if you honestly made a mistake. But he also knows when you're comfortable. He knows when you're justifying it. He knows when you're already telling him what you want. You're praying for it, but you're already telling him what you want, not what he wants. And I'll be honest for a moment. I'll be vulnerable with you. I've always been from the start. I know why God put me here. I know how God put me here. And I know who put me here through God as well. I'll be vulnerable with you, though. I've said this before. Growing up my whole life, my grandfather was roommates, which back then they called it boarding mates, with Hank Williams Sr., 1943 in Mobile, Alabama. My whole life I grew up writing, singing, dreaming of seeing my name on the Billboard chart. The biggest chart in all the genre, Billboard. Billboard Country Airplay. At the time, growing up, it was a hot country songs, but now it's the Country Airplay. I dreamed of seeing my name up next to all of my honky-tonk heroes. Then I got to see my name on that Billboard chart. The biggest chart in the whole genre. Got to see my name. My honky-tonk heroes weren't there anymore because they're all older. Then I learned how it works. I managed to move to Nashville, get inside the system, learn the people, record an album with a hit producer and a hit songwriter, record songs by hit songwriters, go to Billboard without a major record label, bypass the major record labels and beat their system really badly, come out of there not being bought, not being compromised, and I have every secret known to man that every single artist, walking, living, breathing, and songwriter should want to know. Is talking about 45-47, you think that was part of my plan or God's plan? Now, I served in the military. I did what I was supposed to do. I raised my right hand when I was called, when I was asked, when I felt led, and I did it. It was the biggest turning point in my life. But I didn't know way back when what was coming. Not at this complexity. Not where I am. I knew there was a plan, but I didn't know that God was going to put me where he put me. Because there I was, I detoured a little while, had the Billboard hits, had Texas country hits, had a few other accolades there. And then, boom, here I am. That's how God works. Now, I don't sit here and preach to you. I don't tell you how to live your life. I don't tell you what you should do and how you should do it. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference in me sharing my faith with you versus telling you how to live your life and who you should worship and how you should worship. That's up to you. Well, that's how God works. If you'd like to know God, you can know him. He created you. But you have to have a relationship with him yourself. And you have to come to that realization. And a lot of Christians out there, you're trying to force people. You're trying to force people to have an experience. If you would focus on being a Christian yourself and living the life you're supposed to be living, they'll ask you because they'll see it in you. They'll see it through you. But we're here, and we have a lot of liberals out there. It ain't as many as us, but there's a lot of liberals out there who have been pushed away because of people who try to make them experience something versus doing what you're supposed to be doing. Knowing what you're supposed to be knowing. Living the way you're supposed to be living. That's how God works. That's how the Bible works. The Bible is about change, repentance, and forgiveness. Love is a part of that. Love is an application that's a part of that. But the Bible itself, the whole premise that makes that book different than any other book, is telling you to change your ways, to repent, live differently. So why don't you do that with 45-47? It's unique. It's different. It's never been done before in history. That is what makes it unique. That is what makes it different. That is what makes it a special operation. And in order to cure your fear, to cure your anxiety, your stress, your worries, your whatever it is, you got to know what the commander's working with. It's real simple. But Americans, you got to start thinking about others first. But that starts with a foundation. And so many Americans do not have a foundation. If you were raised by parents like mine or grandparents, or even if you didn't have parents like that or grandparents like that, but you had someone who raised you like that, then think about the heritage and the lineage. And then also apply my quote that I coined about what's taking place right now. We're making sure the future's past doesn't repeat the past. Well, let me say that again. I coined that one. I have to pat myself on the back for that too. We're making sure that the future's past doesn't reflect and look like the past. Which means you, if you claim to be a patriot, especially if you claim to be a patriot, but if you're a Republican, conservative, you don't need to be looking remotely anything close to what the swamp, social media, conversations, anything from 2016 prior looked like. You have no excuses at this point with the book that I've put together and the page that God gave me. You have no excuses. I have the uncanny ability with a photographic memory to take all the laws, the orders, all the executive orders, all the proclamations, all the treaties, all of it, and I've summarized it for you. No different than a lot of you when you were in school. I know you. I know. You went and got the little cliff notes to Kill a Mockingbird or whatever they made you read. A Tale of Two Cities. You went and got the cliff notes. You didn't read the book. We know you. We know who you are, especially you athletes. We know what you did. Most of you complaining are the ones who wanted the short route. You cut corners. And now, a lot of you still want to cut corners. You want a short answer. Oh, if you can't say this in under 30 minutes, it's waste time. That's your problem. A 150-year-old problem can be solved in 5, 10, 20 minutes. You're the problem. And in the old days, we had a thing called accountability. In the old days before technology, which wasn't that long ago, accountability. Now you can say whatever you want, anything you want on social media, and they'll do what? Oh, it's my First Amendment. No, that's not your First Amendment. That's your excuse. Because a lot of these people, if you did punch them in the mouth, guess what they'll do? They'll turn around and sue you these days. Oh, he did this, he punched me. They'll shoot you these days. They'll bring a gun to a fish show. Cowards. There's zero repercussions, though, see? There's nothing. There's no accountability. Everybody can say whatever they want on social media and get away with it. Oh, especially the left and the liberals. Oh, boy, they can want the president deceased. They can root for it, cheer for it, but the moment you say anything, just slightly, just something just real light, oh, they'll, they used to. But especially the liberals and the Democrats, they see you do it, no, boy, it's a piranha show. The other thing about technology, attention spans, I was just talking about it. I've heard people, and I've seen the comment boxes before, oh, this guy, he talks an hour, 2, 3 hours, all this stuff. If it's over 5, 10, 20 minutes, it's wasted time. Attention spans. Again, by design, they dummied Americans down to where you don't want to hear truth, real truth. You don't want to hear real facts. You want to hear your truth. You want to hear your facts. And you want it in your time zone, in your time span, in your attention span. You don't want to read. You don't want to study. And you don't want to comprehend. And the harder it is, you quit. You give up. Zero commitment whatsoever. Same thing with relationships. The first little bump, these days people are quitting. Whoa! You didn't answer my text on time. You must have been doing this. Principles, priorities, prevention. Technology is a big topic tonight. Technology. I say this all the time. People who know me personally, I say this all the time. The better technology gets, the dumber people get. Everybody has a phone in their hand today. At least 8 hours a day, some studies show. 8 hours a day. A little tiny computer in your hand. Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever you're using. You have all access to knowledge, information, and facts. The problem is you have what? Zero foundation. Because knowledge today, that word, knowledge, the word information, the word facts, the word truth, it's all over the board. But the common denominator in this situation, in this certain topic that I'm talking about, the common denominator is the foundation. Because liberals and Democrats, they use the word Constitution all the time. Oh, we got to protect our Constitution, blah, blah. They use the very key thing that came from our foundation. But it's only one piece. And it's not the most important piece. This is why Republicans, conservatives, patriots, you do not want to use the Constitution as your premise and your basis and your foundation in any kind of topic of such in delivering to anybody what's going on right now. Outside of the fact that, yes, when you need a quote from Article 1, Article 2, but especially Article 2 with the president, that's fine. But what you never hear liberals talk about is the Declaration of Independence. That's the most important. That's where your civil authorities, your civil responsibilities, your civil duties comes in. That's where those come in. It ain't the Constitution. The Constitution is a framework for we the people to keep Congress in check. It don't change. It's that simple. That answer is always the same. So the Constitution is not a premise or a tool you want to use as your whole premise, as your whole basis. You need to know the Federalist Papers. You need to read some of Thomas Paine's writing. I mean, you need to read some letters by our founders. You need to read some quotes by our founders. I mean, I'm going to post some pages here soon where people can find them on my pages. But I'm going to post, you ought to read the quotes about tyranny by our founders. So here's a principle. When a libtard out there uses the word Constitution out of their mouth, but they turn around and say the word democracy, those cancel out. That negates straight out the gate. We're not a democracy. Article 4, Section 4 of that Constitution says a republic. Federalist Papers number 10 and number 14, written by the man, James Madison, who is the sole author of that Constitution. James Madison wrote Federalist Papers number 10 and number 14, and he tells you how democracies are dangerous. So when you hear the word democracy and Constitution in the same sentence, if it's a Republican, they need corrected. If it's a libtard, not only do they need corrected, but they need slapped. Because they don't understand the term correction. Principles. Most Americans just don't live by principles. No principles, no priorities. Your foundation of this nation is the solution. That is what President Trump's working with. That is the dash. All of it. Solutions versus opinions. Oh boy, I could preach all night on this. Everybody has an opinion, but if an opinion doesn't come with a solution, meaning an application of this opinion, and if that opinion, especially when we're talking about President Trump, and we're talking about the National Guard, we're talking about the military, we're talking about operations, we're talking about executive orders, we're talking about something to do with what's going on right now, if that opinion doesn't have a solution that has a foundation in that operation, it's just air. It's just oxygen. So then, you Republicans and conservatives also have to choose what you're responding to. Because some of these people, you're feeding their algorithms, especially the blue checks and the red checks, the ones that claim to be people that are influencers or claim that they're somebody. They're not. If they're not talking about what is currently going on, which is all public information, every bit of what I talk about is public. What isn't public is the intellectual property, the critical thinking, strategic thinking, analytical thinking, convergent thinking, divergent thinking, creative thinking. Those aren't. And it also shows who is and who ain't, who will and who won't. The other thing, and I see a veteran, a fellow veteran on Instagram right here. The other thing is that not all veterans know what's going on. No. But there's one thing about our family of veterans is this. In the military, I mean, it could be anything. But we make jokes about everything and anything. And you can tell when someone's really being offensive and who isn't. But when someone needs to be corrected, you stand corrected. You take your butt chewing if you take one, If you're the one giving it, later on you're the one over there saying, hey. And the other one's going, hey, it had to happen. Accountability. Responsibility. But not all veterans know what's going on because, again, by design, what happened? The military-industrial complex happened. President Eisenhower, 1961, January the 17th, 1961, his speech about the military-industrial complex. He didn't like where things were going because of money. There's that material again. There's that materialism. And we had a bunch of soldiers going to military all these years for what? Benefits. Privileges versus benefits. It all goes back to why did you join? What was your motive? What were your intent? Naturally, they're all going to say, oh, I served my country, and I did this, and I did that, and I deployed here, and I did it. That's beside the point. When you raise your right hand, every single person in a memorial grave right now, and every single person who's a veteran, and every single person who's active duty, reserve, or National Guard, we all raised our right hand to either Title 10 or Title 32, but the oath was the same. And that oath specifically said that I will obey the orders of the President and the officers appointed over me according to what? Those are just as important, but this is bigger. It says according to what? Regulations, which means if you were Army, Navy, whichever branch, your branch regulations, your Department of Defense, which is now the Department of War, but the Department of War regulations, and then what? It says specifically what? Regulations in the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is Title 10, Chapter 47. So you can't have one Title 10 without the other. You can't have one Title 32 without the other. There's multiple sections and chapters in Title 10 and Title 32. You can't have one without the other. So every veteran out there that don't know what's going on, God love them. But most veterans, when they're presented with the facts, when they're presented with laws and orders, and you outline the bigger mission, the grander mission, most veterans are going to come on board. Because they're going to be like, oh man, I had no idea. Exactly. So you probably want to keep your mouth shut out there. Like I tell people, you probably want to keep your mouth shut. There's a Mark Twain quote that it's better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all the doubt. Yeah, well, a lot of people are in that position, but especially veterans out there. But veterans, though, as a whole, speaking as a whole, veterans are a supportive community. And the grand mission is humanity. The grand mission is women and children first. It's always been that way. Always been this way. Outside of the liberals coming in there and misconstruing all these things and twisting things about females and all this female power and women can do this and men, all that bull crap has got to go too. Just be who you are and be the best you can be, whatever God designed you. But the grander mission. The problem we have right now, though, outside of some veterans not knowing what's going on, is Americans still want what? Quantity versus quality. You want more. You always want more. You want. Remember the want topic? Want. You want more. Well, Derek, why aren't more veterans saying this? And why aren't more veterans standing with you? And why aren't more veterans? That does not erase the laws and the orders currently invoked right now. I could be the only bull on the hill. And if everybody else, but especially veterans, wanted to be the fool in the valley, you want to be down there? It does not erase what is currently invoked right now as we speak in laws and orders that more than clearly outline this. So it doesn't matter. And Americans, you're guilty of wanting more. You want more, you want more, you want more. And while you're wanting more, guess what you're doing? You're disrespecting the mission. You're disrespecting every memorial grave across this land that raised their right hand and took the fall for this nation, especially if they took the fall in combat, especially during all these foreign wars by all of these career politicians who lie to you for their own gain. And you have all of the access in the world to every bit of information that you need to make applicable to take action. And yet, here we are, what is most American feeding over right now, and a lot of Republicans, conservatives, and patriots. What are you feeding on? Jeffrey Epstein. Because you have no critical, strategic, analytical, any kind of thinking skills, and therefore, because you don't have that, guess what you can't get to? The avenue that leads you to what? Irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, asymmetrical warfare, guerrilla warfare, which all tie together is hybrid warfare. You can't get to those because you're too busy over here hung up on drama. The past. The same old, same old. You want different resolutions, but you're not willing to change your formula with the solution that's there to get your resolution. You have zero respect for special operations. You might love the military. You might have a mama, a daddy, an uncle, an auntie, a son, a daughter. You might have someone who served in the military, but you only love the military up to a point. And that's the point of your complacency. That's the point of your laziness. That's the point of your Build-A-Bear. Yours. Not America, not humanity. So a lot of people out there say things like, well, we've always had executive orders. We've always had proclamations. We've always had treaties. We've always had national mercies. Yep, truth. 100% truth. But what you didn't have was accountability, responsibility, and enforceability. You had appeasers. You had subpeasers. You had where they just tease you a little bit. Or they did this over here. And then they did what? What's my quote again? Chaos plus division equals power acquisition. So what they did is they divided America into all these little groups. And then these groups became subgroups. And those subgroups became subgroups. And that's why now you have people who call themselves they, them, this, a cat that wants to poop in a cat box in a bathroom at a children's school. And that's just one little subgroup. And guess who's at fault? You are. Because you don't have principles and priorities. You have zero prevention skills. You want to wait till poop hits the fan and then, hey, there's poop on the fan. Yep, it is, Sherlock. It's your fan. How'd it get on your fan? That's not my fan. How'd it get on your fan? But no, not this time. The executive orders that are currently invoked, the executive orders that President Trump got handed rolling into 2017, they never expected infiltration from within. See, when you're being a good person, you're just being a good person. There's no reward for that. Your reward is if you're a Christian and you die, you get to go to heaven, paradise. But outside of that, occasionally, yeah, if you saw someone who's about to rob a bank, you tackle them, take the gun from them and all that, you might get a key to the city from a mayor, you might get some recognition, but overall, on average, every American, you get nothing for being a good person. Because it's expected of you. We come into the world and we're innocent babies. And we grow up, right? Some of us have different opportunities than others, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. But look at all the people who have made success stories that came from nothing, that came from poverty, that came from abusive relationship families and made something. If one person escapes any kind of tyranny, any kind of abuse, nobody has an excuse. Nobody. Because that person applied some thinking skills. That person didn't play the victim. That person turned and took their situation and they created a life with it. A lot of Americans play victim right now. Everybody's a victim of something. Oh, they said this to me and she said that. She typed, can you believe what they typed to me? Do you believe what they said in the comment box? Everybody's a victim. Everybody creates these own circumstances. You create your own stress. You create your own anxiety. You create your own problems. And then you want to run over here and cry about it when you created it. And majority of those entities, those people, you know what their biggest quote is? I hate drama. The ones who say that the most are the very ones who start it, create it, fan the flames, pour diesel fuel on it, and ignite it. And then run around and play victim. No, not this time. When you're a good person and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing on a daily basis, that is how every person, people ask me this all the time, how do you secret military people know each other? I'm like, well, you just be a good person. First off, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you've been tasked to do. Don't get out of your lane. Don't focus on someone else's task. Don't focus on someone else's mission. Stay in your lane. Do what you're supposed to be doing. Do as you're told, because the laws are there. The orders are there. The foundation's there. So you got to have that like a recipe, right? Ingredients to this recipe. And that recipe will paint the picture of that foundation. And then you have to know what the mission is. What's the grand mission? Every veteran that's listening knows this. There's the war, then there's battles, then there's missions. And there's multiple missions with the mission. And all those little missions add up to the battle, and those battles add up to the war. You know, while we're here on this topic, let me excerpt something real quick. Speaking of that, if you go back and look at the battles of the Revolutionary War, the Patriots didn't whoop the British. The battles were pretty even. It was the Patriots' heart, though. It was the Patriots' vision. It was the Patriots' writing. It was the Patriots' creation. It was the Patriots' establishment of all of those and their heart that sold enough on the other side for a little while. There were still fights. There were still wars. The British, they came back. Oh, it was 1812, 1814. Didn't last that long. But America's always a fight. And when you're a good person, it does seem like you're always fighting more. It does feel that way sometimes. I get you. But it's worth it. See, that's what most Americans are forgetting right now. If you're a patriot, conservative, Republican, you're forgetting that portion of it. America's a fight, but it's worth it. It's worth the fight. And see, a lot of Americans, though, because you're in this want and materialistic mindset, you're not content. Happiness comes and goes. Contentment is where you want to be. I can't get you there, and I can't make you feel it, and I can't make you experience it, and I can't make you get to that place. But contentment's where you want to be. A lot of you are chasing some feeling. You're chasing an emotion and a feeling, and you're always going to be chasing that. Because feelings and emotions, they're here and here and here. I mean, I can drive by a Krispy Kreme, and if the hot flashing sign ain't on, but I'm content because I love Krispy Kreme. Are they good for me? Probably not. But when I walk in there, the hot flashing sign ain't got to be on. I see all them chocolate glazed, and I see the little raspberry field. I'm like, contentment, contentment. I'll take 2 boxes of contentment. And then they say, well, sir, we got a special today. If you add another box, you get a box. And I'm like, give me the other 2 boxes of contentment then. Let's go. I'll be content all day long. See, people don't have priorities, principles. And see, in these principles have all these subgroups that we're talking about. Contentment versus happiness. Solutions versus opinions. And you can keep going with it. That's why terminology matters. And the reason why terminology matters still comes back around to how do you know that you know, and how do you know each other, and how did this happen, and how? One, because of God, God's inspiration. People with the same mindset, people with the same vision, but also, hey, let's be honest, it's okay. It's all right to be like, you know what, I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. I'm frustrated with it. I'm fed up with it. Enough's enough. But see, to get to that place of fed up, frustrated, all those, you got to have something on the other side that's going to be what? The contentment, the fight, the worth the fight portion. And so many Americans, you don't know what you're fighting for. It's not materialism. And so many Americans think that this whole thing's going to make you a multimillionaire, and you're going to be rolling around in a Rolls Royce and a this and a that. And it's not about that. It's not about how much land you can have, how much cows you can have. It's not about any of that. That's a want. And until you get out of the want mindset, you're always going to be chasing an emotion and a feeling that's going to lead you empty. Now, this whole operation is going to end, and it is going to have a finale, and it is going to have vindication, validation, and it will be accounted for in history, and it's going to happen for everybody on the planet, and it's going to happen especially for Americans. But the reason why these podcasts are important, to talk, publish, share, and to get out there, is the prevention part. When we get on the other side of it, I don't want to be back in this position that every single one of us has been in the last X amount of years of your life. If you want to be right back where you've been with your anxiety, your stress, and the tax for a tax, for a tax, and this tax, and this tax, and that tax. If that's what you want, we'll be right back there. Quick. Because of population, because of technology, and because of lack of real education. I also know that's why God chose me, is because I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Alabama, and I have a master's degree from Colorado State University, Masters in Business, MBA. 8% of the United States of America have a master's degree. There you go. All right. I probably could get a PhD, but don't really want one. Probably could go to law school, but don't really want to go. I know more law than lawyers do. So 45-47 is the operation. You hear me like a broken record, a beautiful broken record weekly. That is the operation. The whole thing is an operation. Just like that. You got to look at it like that. The whole thing. You are about right here. Right now. Is 47 over? No, it's not over. So Americans, conservatives, Republicans are looking at that beginning of the 47 as real time. It's not real time when it comes to the operational portion. Everything you're watching was by design. Strategic operation, a counter psychological operation, and a counter on all of what the deep state did. That's why it was so awesome that, hey, if Congress was doing what they were supposed to be doing all these years, instead of trying to limit the president, take away his power, establish all these statutes, codes, etc., amendments to the War Powers Resolution Act, which stem from the War Powers Act, which are unconstitutional. If Congress would have been doing what they were supposed to be doing, they wouldn't be worried about the president. See, if everybody would do what they're supposed to be doing, but what did they do? They knew Americans were lazy, complacent, don't know what you're supposed to know, don't know how to hold them accountable as a whole, not one here and there, and not a few little voices here and there, make a little bit of chatter here and there. As a whole, the narrative flipped, meaning majority of Americans scrutinizing them going, hey, it's 350 million of us to you 535 members of Congress, the way it's supposed to look. But Americans don't know that, didn't know that, so you can't hold them accountable. And that's what's taking place. Congress became a weapon. The judiciary branch became a weapon. They try to integrate them all versus what our founders established. Our founders separated them on purpose, but they put them in an order for a reason. Legislative first, write the laws. Executive second, enforce the laws. Judicial third, to interpret the laws. In a lot of ways, they inverted that, so they flipped it, and they made it judicial. Then they really didn't know, they didn't invert it, because that would be just a flippage. They assorted it. They made it judicial, legislative, and then executive. And then they gaslit you, manipulated you, used all the same terminology, used all the laws, orders, executive orders, etc., used all their powers, and that's why people struggle with hearing executive orders, hearing national emergencies, hearing proclamations, hearing laws, because you've heard them, oh, we've always had these, and blah, 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 blah. No, it's different. There's a strategic blueprint. Where is it? Here we go. Part 1 right here. It's a chronological order. Now that's part 1, and this is part 2, which is obviously bigger. This is 590-something pages. Heavy special operations, though. I go deep into special operations, irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, etc. This just gets your feet wet, right? 200 and whatever pages, chronological order. It's not a hard read. It's like a workbook. It's not even a read. It's a workbook. So what's hilarious right now are all these people jumping ship. All these celebrities, right? I'm not going to name them because that gives them more publicity, but one of them that I was around 2 years ago at Mar-a-Lago jumped ship. Oh, Epstein and blah, blah, blah. I recant my support for President Trump and blah, blah. It's like, dude, you don't even have to. And what's funny is he's in a picture holding up my book. He ain't read it. He probably don't have the IQ to read it. Let's just be honest. But, prime example, all these people are doing what? Doing what they don't have to do. If they knew what they're supposed to know, but let's start out with this. If they were a good person and then knew what they were supposed to know, they wouldn't be trying to create drama, stir up drama. And a lot of you patriots out there, you got to stop this. I'm going to tell you something else. Patriots. Just because they got a blue check or a red check doesn't mean that they're being told to do this. There's a lot of people out there that are not a part of this operation. And a lot of you patriots think just because there's someone famous that they're a part of. No, they're not. No, they're not. If they weren't former military, veteran like myself, they're not a part of it. The military does not recruit that way. The military don't go get people with criminal records. A lot of these people have criminal records, by the way. A lot of these podcasters out there have criminal records. All accessible to you. And the ones like me, who are actually a part of this, tiny little part, but went through all the credentials, got them. I have a press pass. I can go anywhere with the military, anywhere with the press. People like me who have that, but also, for those that didn't know that, but have a clean record, I'm the one they come after and they try to do what? Prefabricate things on. And that's the world we're living in, which is what I'm getting to right now. We're in the technology world. We're in the AI world. So now they really amped it up. Now, anybody who has the skill set to get on and make a photo, like this right here, I did this all on my own on AI. This book here that I wrote, all that right there, I did every bit of that on AI. Myself. And I stink at graphics. But you just type in on AI, hey, I want a cowboy roping a jackass, all right, with the Democratic symbol on the ass, because that's what they are. And then I want American flag chaps on the cowboy. I want the cactuses laughing. I want the armadillo laughing. I want the little coyote down here laughing. I want this typed in here and this typed here. I want a scroll up here that looks like an old Western scroll. Boom, I'm an expert. This right here, AI. It took a buddy of mine 3 tries to get that image. It was 3 different images that I sent him. It took him 3 different commands. Bam. I'm like, oh, that's it, baby. That is the one. This new book right here that I wrote, that's 500-something pages, that's selling like hotcakes in front of a Weight Watchers event, this was easy. I did this myself as well. AI. Technology. So now, especially though, a lot of you that have your moms or dads who are in their 70s, their 80s, or 90s, that didn't grow up with technology, and they get on Facebook Marketplace, and they fall for something that looks like, oh, this is a good deal, and they're like, no, it wouldn't be that cheap. And then things like that. Think about now, all these videos that are out there, all these different photos and videos and things. It's going to be chaos. But then again, chaos might lead to what? You being what? Fed up. You being exhausted with it. You may get so fed up and exhausted with technology that you finally do what? What you're supposed to do. Put it down. Turn it off. Unsubscribe. Unfollow. Quit supporting these people. Learn the algorithms. Learn how social media works. Learn who you should and shouldn't support. So it's hilarious to me that all these people are jumping ship, and they don't have to. Because if they were good people, claim to be a President Trump supporter, then they got all that they need. Especially those who have met me, know me. They have no excuses. They have zero excuses. Zero. Look at all the podcasters that I've been on with that don't even share my books. They don't share my pages. Think about it. Those books have all the answers to 45-47. Those books are all of the chronological order of the laws and the orders currently in vogue that outline the strategic operation via irregular, unconventional warfare, things that 99% of these podcasters don't know about because they're not military, and they can't think that way because they don't have that as their foundation. They don't have that as their lineage. They don't have that as their heritage because majority of my family have served in the military. Just about every male in my family, and I'm not knocking the ones who haven't because that's not what we do, but just about every male in my family has served in the military. And I'm talking about all the way back, son of the Confederacy and son of the Revolution, which means my family fought in every battle from the beginning. I will brag on them. So it's hilarious. So what's even more hilarious is that when you do know that you know everything there is to know with 45-47 and country music, I mean, you can see who the social media whores are. You can see who all of the attention grabbers are. You can see the ones who are misleading you out there. And you think I care about calling them out? The ones that I've had to call out before that go after me, attack me, etc. You think I care? Heck no, I don't care because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's called defense. It's a huge difference in defense and attack. But sometimes you have to attack. It's like President Trump says. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you have to. You have to go on the offense sometimes. So I'm about to get to the meat of the subject here. So priorities. Priorities. Now let's get heavy into priorities. Well, I'm going to tell you right now. Woo boy. If you had to go up in court somewhere right now with majority of Americans, you should be shaking in your boots because you are guilty right out the gate. It ain't what our founders established. Oh, no, you're not innocent until proven guilty in today's America. You are guilty. Especially the mouth of the South and all the mouths, the gospelers and the ones that tote the news. Boy, oh my Lord, have mercy. You're guilty. And a lot of those same people have been proven innocent via DNA, via technology, their cell phone ping to another location, and then they had an alibi, and they had people who witnessed them there, and they had full DNA proof that they did not do what was accused of them, and 50% of Americans can see the evidence and still call them guilty. You are a low IQ piece of trash if you do that to somebody. That's as conservative as I can get with that one. So the American jury, guilty. No evidence. Guilty. Zero evidence. Guilty. And then in a 50-50 topic, again, which is what we're talking about, a 50-50, which, again, most of them are by design. They did this by design to get you stewing over it. But then fame. Let's talk about fame. See, a lot of you out there, you're not famous. You're not known. You're not notable. And that's okay. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're living the life that you're supposed to be living, that's okay. but to the drama feeders, to the drama type people. Fame is different than being an average American to them. See, they have no priorities and they have no principles. Fame doesn't produce evidence just because you're famous. See, they justify that it's okay when someone's famous. It's okay when someone's notable. It's okay when someone's known because you're expected to go through that. You should be used to that. You should be ready for that. You should be resilient for that. I've had people say that to me. Oh, you're known. People know you. You should expect that. So I don't have a beating heart. I don't have a vocal box. I don't have a thinking mind. I don't have a mother. I don't have a father. I don't have a family. I don't have friends. Just because someone's famous, notable, known, that gives you the justification to damn them to hell, to damn them to shame, to make them guilty straight out the gate with zero evidence? Straight out the gate? And then some of you, when you have evidence, you still want to believe what you want to believe. And you wonder what's wrong with this nation, with this world. You want to know what's wrong with it? It's you. If you think like that, it is you. It's not us. "50-50 topic. Epstein. To the average American who don't know anything about their foundation, how they're here, why they're here, what they're supposed to look like, what they're supposed to know, how you make that applicable in everyday life. To the average American, that's a 50-50 topic. Republicans are over here saying this. Democrats are over here yelling this. Not a single one of these entities are preventive thinkers. Not a single one of them. They're not practical. They're not logical. They're not analytical. They're not critical. They're not strategic. They're not divergent. They're not convergent. They're not any kind of thinker. Drama. They're the ones keeping The Bachelor going 29 seasons and counting. They're the ones keeping American Idol going. They're the ones keeping all these country music singers up there winning Songwriter and Artist of the Year when they're in the room with 3 to 14 number one hit songwriters on each song. Oh, they're a songwriter. Oh. Drama. Zero priorities, zero principles, zero prevention. President Trump did not become the threat in 2025. In the average person's mind, his second term. It's his third. By law, by orders invoked, being enforced. It outlines that. But for the average person out there, God love them, the average person, President Trump didn't become the threat on January the 20th, 2025. President Trump became the threat June 16th, 2015 when he rolled down the escalator. That's when he became the threat. He became the promise on November the 8th, 2016. And then the promise went into effect on January the 20th, 2017. And if this was not a strategic operation, if this was not a special operation, then if you believe that Joe Biden was real, and if you believe that Kamala was real, and if you believe all that was real from 21 to 25, you have to explain all the things that I outlined that quote-unquote Joe and the Ho and all of them did not do with President Trump's Title 10 and Title 32 orders, and also why they didn't terminate certain executive orders and national emergencies that President Trump put into place if President Trump is a Nazi, a king, a dictator, a threat, and all these things that they're assailing. You have to explain that first before you ever get to Jeffrey Epstein. And if you can't do that, then it shows where your priorities are. It shows where your complacency is. It shows where your laziness is. It exposes you. It exposes your intent. It exposes your motives as an American. It shows that you are or you're not a contributor. Because I can tell you right now, every American that has read, studied, comprehended the 45-47, especially outlined by me, the only one who does it, then guess what? You will not have a contribution type conversation with any of them. And you're going to be left behind in the future, in the golden age, and you're going to wonder how they got where they are, and you are down here eating crumbs. When you could have been a contribution. You're going to benefit, though, from the operation. Oh, you're going to benefit from it. Your taxes are going to be eliminated. Your life's going to be better. Election fraud's going to be gone. You're going to benefit from it. But when you're over there because you ostracize yourself looking like a moron when you didn't have to look like a moron, when you stayed in the past and you didn't have to, when you jumped ship and didn't have to, when you recanted when you didn't have to, and you wonder why you're on a lonely island over there and nobody wants to talk to you, it's your fault. Because I can tell you right now, if you hate somebody, I don't hate anybody, personally, even people who have tried to frame me. I mean, I've had people try to frame me. Think about that. People I know try to frame me. I've had people try to steal my trademark, then lie about it, play a victim, which to be expected because they're narcissists. I've had all these things happen, but especially frame up. Frame up is even worse than stealing something like that. When you try to frame somebody, but even them, guess what? I don't hate them. I don't like them, but I don't hate them. I love them through God, but I don't like them through Derek. I don't let that animosity build up right here. I keep it right here as a talking point, as a reference point for principles and priorities, but I don't keep it right here because of conviction. So I can't really speak on hating someone, but when you look at what is projected by quote-unquote Joe, Kamala, the Democrats, etc., right now, even though it's theater and it's all by design, it's all strategic, it's all part of the movie, it's all part of the show, it's all part of the operation, but for the ones that don't know that, when you look at what they're projecting out there, they want... A couple of weeks ago when President Trump's Air Force One had to reroute, these people were literally on social media wanting that aircraft to crash. That is hatred. That right there is nothing but the devil. That is nothing but wicked. That's nothing but evil. That is pure hatred. If you hate someone that bad, but let's just amp this up. Let's just say that Joe Biden, the real Joe Biden, hated President Trump. Let's say Hillary Clinton hated President Trump. Let's say that Obama hated President Trump and Comey and Schiff and all these people. Let's just use the word hate and let's make it applicable to this situation, and let's just assume that they hate him. With the pure hatred and animosity and all these other things that you see with their people out there, if you hated someone, but, this is a good but for the application, but if you thought that this person was taking away everything that you worked hard for, that we know they didn't work for it, but let's just pretend here, this is a metaphor, this is an analogy. This person's coming in and he's destroying everything. He's destroying it. He's destroying democracy. He's destroying this. He's a Nazi. He's a king. He's only making his people rich. He's only doing it. One, while we're here, everything they're saying he's doing is the very thing they did. Projection. Guilty. Conviction. That is a form of conviction because their projection is telling me what they did. But hatred, Nazi, king, dictator, destroying. If President Trump was doing that, you know when he started that? I'm wearing sweatpants tonight just because it's cold down here. How do you twerk, ladies? Some of you Instagram models need to show me how to twerk. I can't twerk because I got a bad back. Do you know when President Trump started destroying everything, ladies and gentlemen? Do we need some twerkers? Huh? Because I wish I could go in and I wish I was that good at graphics. I could just slice the video and come in and put a twerker there. Oh, yeah. Trump dance. Like an amplified Trump dance. You know when he started destroying everything, people? January the 20th, 2017. Every single order that the military was working under at the southern border was put into place back then. Majority of your Title 10 and Title 32 orders that the military are currently operating under right now. The first term. This is why it's so funny. This is why it's so hilarious, all the people jumping ship. You look like idiots. Because you are. You're not a blue check. You didn't earn it. It's so bad. I wish I could twerk. Oh! I wish I could twerk. The one time I wish I was an Instagram model and I could twerk. That is how stupid people look. You have to use the term stupid. Ignorant can be educated. Stupid means you are absolutely stupid. You are told over and over. It's this simple. Hey, all of us military, our Title 10, Title 32, they're not continuation orders because you Democrat, you libtards out there, you have to have a congressional authorization. Well, why does President Trump have one and Joe Biden doesn't? So if Joe Biden doesn't have a congressional authorization and there's a 90-day application for that congressional authorization, but the troops that are operating right now don't have a current Title 10 or Title 32, but the most current Title 10s are from the first term of President Trump. This stuff is so much fun. It's that simple, but yet it's that hilarious. That it is really that
thinking the other night, I was watching these comedians, and I'm like, now, are you really a comedian if you laugh at your own jokes? Some of these comedians, they'll be sitting here talking, and then they start laughing. But now I'm like, you know what? I get it now because this is so funny. It really is that simple. It really is that simple. A friend of mine 3 years ago was like, you need to make that a t-shirt. You need to put that, it really is that simple. And I'm like, that won't sell. And it's not about sales, but I'm just like, that ain't even, if one person may buy, you're going to buy it. You're going to be the only one to buy it. It really is that simple. All these liberals, all these Republicans jumping ship, all these rhinos jumping ship. If you hate someone and they're destroying everything you claim you work for, President Trump did not become the threat now, last year. And all of these key executive, that's why they're not just executive orders, that's why they're not just national emergencies. That's why 45-47 is not 2 terms, it's not real time, it's not just normal. It's an operation. That is why God put certain people where he put them, where he put us. If you hate someone so bad and you call them a Nazi, a king, a dictator, but you continued key executive orders like funding Doge, for all the liberals, Democrats out there, if you're listening, if you made it this far, kudos to you. You might have a brain. You made it this far. Okay, let me flip it this way. So President Trump, he's a dictator. Doge, this is a dictation. First off, Obama established the digital service. President Trump renamed it Doge. So there's that straight out the gate. But why did quote-unquote Joe fund that in the American Family Plan Act? 2021, quote-unquote Joe funded it. If Joe Biden was real, which he wasn't, but for the ones that thought he was, if Joe Biden was real and he funded Doge, and you turn around and call President Trump a dictator and a Nazi and a king and destroying America, that is a contradiction. That is a double standard. There's zero principle there. Yeah. The military orders are the most key, though. They're not continuation orders. Even Bush and that crew didn't continue orders. They had their own. Whether you liked them or not, and we can make a point of destruction from that angle, but just for the surface talk, they didn't have continuation orders themselves. So if you hate someone, you would, if Joe Biden was real, and if Kamala were real, and remember, Patriots, I know y'all remember this. Remember all the Republicans and conservatives, the average group, they were saying what? Obama's back here. He's the one puppeteering Joe Biden around on a little string. Obama's really the one signing everything back here. If that were the case, then why didn't Obama terminate everything by President Trump? Why weren't they hitting the red emergency button from 21 to 2025? Why didn't one single tariff get terminated? Tariffs are presidential authority, by the way. The Trade Act of 1962 and 1974, might want to go read those. They're all presidential authority. They were put into place in 2018. The tariffs were all put into place in 2018. The current tariffs. And then they displayed to Americans that there was a Democrat president, a Democrat House, and a Democrat Senate from 21 to 2023. And they didn't terminate a single order by President Trump? It's that funny. I feel like the dude in one of those freaky movies, you know, where he's like the crazy guy. Or they do something and it wasn't good, and then they're like, ha 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 ha. Well, that's what it is. This is that simple. It really is that simple. I mean, I can't catch my breath. I swear to you. It really is that simple. I mean, I'm trying to think of something where like someone made me mad, and I'm like, I'm gonna get them. I'm gonna send their picture out all over that they sent me, you know, something. Like, if you hate somebody and they're destroying you, oh, he's doing this, he's that, they would have done everything to President Trump to prevent 47 from happening. President Trump, he told you specifically, he said, on the 2020 debate, he looked at quote-unquote Joe, who was already replaced at that point. He looked at Joe on the 2020 debate, said, it was you, Joe. It was you, Joe, who recommended the Logan Act on General Michael Flynn. You recommended that to Obama. Obama didn't even know about the Logan Act, Title 18, Section 953, which is federal crimes and criminal procedures, Title 18. They used the Logan Act on General Michael Flynn for a meeting. It's called private correspondence with a foreign leader. I'm going to try not to laugh. President Trump, supposed to be the former President Trump, met with 12 foreign leaders at Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower from April 2024 to December 2024. And the Democrats didn't do anything. President Trump was seen at the border in Texas. The only person with a presidential title seen with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general of Texas was February 2024. Wasn't he supposed to be a former president? And he's meeting with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general of Texas, the commanding general of all the armed forces in the state of Texas. And quote-unquote Joe was never seen with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general? That would have been a breach of national security of a sitting president. That would have been a violation of multiple federal laws, including his own, because it was election year. It would have been a election interference from his own executive order with a national emergency. Epstein. First run-in with the law was 2005, people. The person who had the greatest leverage on President Trump would have been Epstein. Epstein was alive 3 years into President Trump's first term. If anybody could have gotten publicity, I'm pretty sure it's a billionaire named Jeffrey Epstein. He already had publicity. The greatest leverage would have been Epstein over President Trump, not President Trump over Jeffrey Epstein. And from 21 to 25, when you, not the Patriots, exclude you, all of you twerkers, because I know y'all twerking with me, all of you Patriots, exclude you, all of you average whatever you want to call yourselves, from 2021 to 2025, when you thought Joe Biden was president, when you thought Kamala was the vice president, when you thought Obama was back here pulling strings, I'm pretty sure they would have already known by then, hey, we got to terminate these executive orders, we got to terminate this national emergency, we got to terminate this, we need to abolish this. They didn't do anything. Didn't do a thing. Didn't terminate anything. Didn't terminate a single thing that they are whining about right now. All the things they're calling him a Nazi over, king over, dictator over, destroying things over, everything they're calling him right now, they didn't do a thing. And they didn't release these files. Then, Merrick Garland, who was the one who fraudulently was appointed, because none of this was real. The whole thing's an operation, but for the people who think it is still, we got to play and cater to them. All right, Merrick Garland, Eric Holder. Eric Holder is Obama's little, he is his little, you know what. Eric Holder and Merrick Garland were subpoenaed by the House Judicial Committee over this Epstein stuff. Merrick Garland, who was the one who appointed, quote-unquote, Jack Smith that went after President Trump that you just saw, quote-unquote, testify. Merrick Garland and Eric Holder said that they know nothing of any. They wrote in. They didn't even make an appearance. They wrote in. We know nothing about anything, any files. I'm pretty sure that Eric Holder over Merrick Garland, but especially Eric Holder, who hates President Trump, who was Obama's Attorney General, I'm pretty sure, lawyer, hello, pretty sure that if they were going to go out there was the opportunity. No knowledge of any files. And it was three! Oh no, those Chase. 3 Obama and Clinton appointed judges who blocked the sealed grand jury material from 2005 to 2007 on Epstein. What did they have to hide? And how come Bill and Hillary? Here you go, you rhinos. Here you go, you libtards. Listen, if you have any brain out there. How come Bill and Hillary, who are retired, that you know of, you don't see them anywhere, you don't hear them anywhere. The one video they showed Bill walking around, he looks like he's eaten 10 pounds of Bluebell ice cream in 3 seconds, and his brain is frozen. He's walking around like he looks like a freaking like Oompa Loompa, a skinny Oompa Loompa who's just like, I don't know what to do. How come Bill and Hillary had to reschedule due to their scheduling? How come James Comey, with 1.1 million followers on X, has not posted a single post on X since June the 10th last year? How come Osama, your mama, Obama, hasn't said anything about Russiagate? You remember the days of old? Remember the swamp, the mudslinging they did? Where is it? You remember all that? Someone accused someone of something. I didn't do this, you did that, you did your mama this, your mama that. Your mama's so fat she plays pool with the planets. Remember all that? Remember all the trash talking? Remember all the mud? Where's Obama? Where's Big Mike? My man. They ain't said one thing. They have not defended Obama one time about Russiagate. Nowhere. But you normal people, you average people, all you see is drama. Obama's talking trash about President Trump. He's saying this, he's saying that. It's by design, it's strategic. Because if you knew what you were supposed to know, the laws and the orders currently invoked, that outline what they outline? No, it's not a strategic plan by the Democrats and by the liberals. No. This is a fundamental reset of Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3 of the United States Constitution. You've witnessed a fundamental reset as prescribed, not in the Constitution, but as prescribed in the Declaration of Independence. And if you knew what you were supposed to know, you'd be twerking that thing right now, son. You'd be twerking it. Especially if you're a Republican, conservative, and a patriot. You wouldn't be worried. You wouldn't be fearful. You wouldn't be frantic. You wouldn't have any single doubt, because you don't have to have any doubt if you knew what you're supposed to know, and if you would support the man you claim to support. Which shows again, you support people by what? Popularity, because you were told to, because it's popular, because it's the most, yeah, they're cool and they're this and that. President Trump is a cool guy. I've been around him a few times. The real one. But he was put here for a mission. And it's an operation. And it's way bigger than you. Individually. It's a humanity thing. It's bipartisan as well. That congressional authorization that these liberals scream that President Trump needs, he's got it. December the 20th, 2019, Section 1550, Title 50, Chapter 33, it's there. Guess who don't have one? Obama. So this is a prime case of what President Trump said. Be careful what you wish for. But he also said what? Give them what they want. Well, in order to get a lot of people, the average people, you got to do what? You got to get them the way you can get them, right? So they're what? They're putting on a show for them. Which means you, the patriot, you, the conservative Republican patriot, don't need to be a part of that. But you still should fight for it. You still should try to shake your family or your friend the right way. Say, hey, you don't have to look like this. Let me teach you how to twerk. Because that's what you should be doing. But you got to learn prevention skills. When you learn prevention skills, that's what prevents you from getting killed. Now, that's the extreme factor. But when you prepare for the worst, then anything in between, you can handle. And that's what warfare does. That's what, irregular, unconventional, strategic, guerrilla, it teaches you skills. You may never need them, but they are pretty handy in everyday life. And that's why you can have calmness. That's why you can have that cancer about yourself that where you can sit and be like, You may receive bad news in your family or a friend or whatever, something, but you can handle it the right way if you train yourself. You think. Use your thinking skills. Put the phone down occasionally. Like me, this whole week I've been deer hunting. You hadn't seen me posting a whole lot because I've been hunting. Been freezing mainly, but I've been hunting. Right? You have to recalibrate your mind every now and then. Recalibrate. Go out hiking, walking, whatever it is you do, surfing, skateboarding, rollerblading, whatever. You can't do any of those. If you're in a wheelchair, then hey, pop a wheel in that bad boy. Right? Do whatever. Do whatever it is. Put the phone down. Recalibrate. Center your life on a foundation. Center your life around what matters. Then you're going to find contentment. Because when you read what you're supposed to read, when you study what you're supposed to study, when you know what you're supposed to know, and you put all the other aside, you'll realize what was drama, you'll realize what was unnecessary, you'll realize what didn't matter, you'll realize what does matter. Then you'll also free up your life. I've had so many emails come in and messages come in about people who were like, man, You know what? I finally did that. I finally did this, and I went and my Instagram paused again. I've had people say, I did this. I just put a pause on my life. Like my Instagram's doing, it's pausing. And then they said, you know what they came back and said? Oh, I'm much freer. I don't feel as stressful. I don't feel as frantic. I don't feel as this. Because you got to have a foundation. And I mean, it's like that. That's your foundation. He put this here April the 2nd, 2023, which would have been the midway point of your quote-unquote Joe. It was a midway point. So it was for all those who knew what I'd already been talking about, had already writing the books, right? I just signed my publicity contract. April the 2nd, so February the 18th, I just signed my publicity contract in front of President Trump himself at his private establishment, at his private table, in his chair. I'm the only person who's ever been allowed to sit in his chair for a business deal as such, outside of he and his family. I just signed to write these books. February the 18th, 2023. President Trump put that dash on his ball cap. April the 2nd, 2023. Do your math, people. It's not a coincidence. Prevention skills prevents you from getting killed. So when you have those and everything in between, you'll be able to handle. And President Trump's already told you. He's validated that dash multiple times. He's made quotes about, he's made comments about. It's mainly on True Social, which a lot of people didn't go join. He still doesn't have the numbers that he should on True Social versus X. But True Social, he posts a lot more on there. He has validated this dash. They put it in the new Melania documentary on the front of the vehicle, 45-. Dan Scavino, all of them. The dash is everywhere. It's going to be accounted for in history, but he's validated everywhere. Here's what you got to do, though, patriots, conservatives, Republicans who are listening. If your family member or friend sent you this video, here's what you got to do. He speaks two different ways because it's proclamations. They're all proclamations. They're all timestamps. He's not speaking two different ways the wrong way. You got to prioritize what you want to listen to. You want to stay in the drama? You want to be a part of the normal life? Go ahead. You got it. But if you want to know what he's really doing, what the 45-47 really is, you can already know that. That's why I'm here. But December the 2nd, just this past December the 2nd, President Trump put up a post. And he said all executive actions, pardons, legal documents, etc. by quote-unquote Joe, all of them, from 21 to 25, have been terminated. Ladies and gentlemen, by law, if those would have been real, that would create a judiciary pantomime, if that were real. Because even some Obama executive orders, Bush executive orders, all the way back, that are still active today, whether they were signed with the good intentions and motives, doesn't matter. If they were or weren't, does not matter. But terminating some executive orders with national emergencies before they have a resolution by the president and or the Congress would be chaos. Not the kind of chaos that you're confusing with drama, but we're talking about legit chaos. President Trump, December the 2nd, said all executive actions, that means executive orders, freezing up again. I'm on top of it, baby. Let it unpause for a moment, if it unpauses. That means I'm right over the target, see? Always on the target. It's not unfreezing either. Says pause due to poor connection, and it's not reconnecting at all. All right, finally reconnected. Well, I'm over the target, baby. All executive actions, meaning executive orders, proclamations, treaties, national emergencies, those are even key. Those are the big ones. Terminated. Then he went on to say in there, no legal effect. Well, no legal effect has a Latin term that conjoins with it. It translates to it. No legal effect in Latin means void ab initio. You know what that means? Never existed. Never existed. It never existed what you thought existed. President Trump existed. President Trump was in government exile. President Trump was a regular warfare, unconventional warfare strategy, 45-47. Quote unquote Joe never existed. Quote unquote Kamala never existed. The Biden, quote unquote Biden administration never existed. By law, never existed. That is what that post meant. But see, what people do is they'll see President Trump come back like he's been doing recently, saying, oh, the Biden administration did this, and they let all these people in. You're not understanding and comprehending what a government in exile is and a puppet government, and how they're irregular and unconventional warfare. That's where most people are struggling. That's the key pieces that people are struggling with. And then the cherry on top, and I'm going to end with this. By Army Regulations 600-25 on January the 20th, 2021, quote-unquote Joe had a military funeral service. Now, where people struggle with this is the fact that there is an actual gun salute for military funerals. And then you also can have a 21 gun salute for a president or for whoever it is deceased from the military. But quote-unquote Joe wouldn't qualify for military. So that portion's excluded automatically. So what you have to do is you have to go to the date of. January the 20th would be inauguration day. And then you got to go to the locations of the cannon. That's very key. What was displayed to you, the people? So before they get there, right, raise his right hand at 11:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is a violation of the 20th Amendment, straight out the gate. Then, by Army Regulations 600-25, all of them are in Army Regulations 600-25, by the way. But after the quote-unquote oath, and you hear dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, bum-ba-da-dum-bum-bum, you hear the four ruffles, and then you hear audio, hail to the chief. On the fourth ruffle, by Army Regulation, remember that when we raise our right hand, all of us veterans, remember that? Yeah, remember that? Regulations and Uniform Code of Military Justice, that portion? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah? All right? That? Yeah. On the fourth ruffle, Army Regulations 600-25, simultaneous to hail to the chief, guess what on the first note is supposed to happen? 21 gun salute. Guess what did not happen? 21 gun salute. There was no review of the troops by quote-unquote Joe. Amazing Grace was performed. A funeral song? No, oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. When the Democrats washed all the Republicans away. We can't get no oh, happy day. The man who sat in his whitey-tighties in his basement got the most votes in U.S. history. We can't get a happy song? We can't get no twerking song? We can't get no they-them song? We can't get nothing? We couldn't get Bruce Springsteen? We couldn't get all these people who hate President Trump? Couldn't get nobody? To sing a happy song for the they, them. Oh, yeah. Then the National Guard, as the motorcade drove by, for all the people watching that day and all the they, thems going, oh, finally someone who understands I'm a cat and I like to take a poop in a litter box in the bathroom of a high school. Finally, someone who understands I want to chop my wiener off. Oh, I want to be a female so bad. Wait, I don't know. No, I'm not a female. I'm a him. The motorcade's rolling down. Not a single National Guard saluting that motorcade. We always salute a commander-in-chief. We always salute a flag or a waving flag especially. Then there are all these fat. I know people don't like fat shaming, but we're going to fat shame on this one. We're going to fat shame tonight. Pleasantly plump, whatever you want to call it. Fat. There were these fat soldiers. Not in regulation uniforms straight out the gate. Those were not regulation uniforms. Plus, they were fat, and they were moving around. Ladies and gentlemen, if this was a presidential inauguration, ain't no soldier going to be moving around like that. You would get a cussing put on you like nobody's business. Plus, you'd get what they call a counseling statement. You might even get courts-martialed, depending on if you were doing it on purpose or you weren't paying attention. It just depends. They're moving around. One of them, I'm like, man, if you'd hit that treadmill a little bit more, you'd be a better actor than what you are. Big old gut. Moving around, moving around, moving. That is not the 3rd Infantry Regiment, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't any part of the military. You only see that in the movie Major Payne before Major Payne got in there and whooped those little fat butts to shape. You don't see that in any military, ladies and gentlemen. And when you don't want to listen to veterans like me, outside of the fact you want to believe I'm part of it or not, don't matter. This is straight up military regulation, straight up Department of War regulation, and branch regulation. When you don't want to listen to this, and you want to say, oh, well, why did they do this? And what did they do? And then put an angry face on it, but not comprehend it. Ain't nothing to be angry about. This is validation for you that none of this is real. It's real, but it's not what you think it is. Those were none of this was regulation whatsoever. Old fat boy looking like Oompa Loompa there, moving around. Army Regulations 600-25, there was not a officer present. Army Regulations 600-25, 2-3 cannon salutes. Go read it. There's to be a commissioned officer present at every cannon salute. Go back and watch the footage that day, what they gave you for quote-unquote Joe. Then, for the first time in U.S. history, presidential inauguration history, they showed you 3 cannons at Arlington. And I do this because it's so much fun. 3 years ago, there was a moron on True Social, a female moron, which is rare, but you have to call a spade a spade. Female moron goes, I finally caught Derek Jonhson lying. I'm an Army veteran in 20-something years and blah, blah, blah. The cannons are always at Arlington. Yep, you're correct. The cannons are always at Arlington. But why are they showing the cannons at Arlington on an inauguration day of the man who sat in his whitey-tighties in his basement and got the most votes in U.S. history? And why were you female heifer, why weren't you paying attention to the other Army regulations that, if you're really Army and you're really a veteran, why weren't you looking at all the other that you didn't get correct, you moron? Claiming to be a MAGA, claiming to be a President Trump supporter, which we know most of them aren't, but let's just, for sake of argument, say that this person was. This is how dumb they are. And then their dumbness and their ignorance and their stupidity and their hatred and their jealousy ends up proving what? Ends up validating me, baby. So see, this is why when you're a good person on the front, you won't ever have to worry about being a moron over here. Because for the first time in United States inauguration history, 3 cannons were shown at Arlington, which is always at Arlington because the cannons at Arlington is for Arlington because they're for funerals. 3 cannons is a funeral. The 4 cannons, 21 rounds, were at Joint Base Andrews with President Trump when the whole world, especially the they-them audience, were finally, they were over there having them a orgy like nobody's business, thinking that President, finally he's gone, he's out of here, we can they-them all we want. We can go take a big giant doo-doo in our cat litter boxes, and we can celebrate. No, we can get out in the street with our dildos and spatulas, and we can finally be idiots again in public. The 4 cannons, 21 rounds, the actual 21 gun salute, same day, January the 20th, was at Joint Base Andrews with President Donald John Trump with the red carpet rollout. Did you see the celebration that President Trump had? Did you see when, quote-unquote, Joe, the screen was blurry when, quote-unquote, Joe rode away into the sunset? Did you not watch that? They put this stuff in front of you. This screen was blurry. The audio was fake. This production is so awesome. I don't even know how they're going to put it in a movie. It's got to be like a Death Wish movie where it's like 13 of them. Or like Rambo. Or like Rocky, where you're like, man, how many are there going to be? I love them, but how many are there going to... On January the 20th, 2021, quote-unquote Joe, for the whole world to witness, had a funeral. Military funeral. By Army Regulation 600-25. That every veteran we raised our right hand to took an oath that says, I will obey the orders of the President, officers appointed over me according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is military law, Title 10, Chapter 47. Ooh, it's like a mic drop, note drop. So see, people are showing their priorities are in the wrong place when the principles outline that if President Trump was in these files, then the people who are yelling, screaming, kicking, cussing, all these names, all this vile hatred, bitterness. I mean, we're talking about you can't even use a light term for it because it's not light terms. But for the actual people, but they don't realize that they're being set up. It's a bait. They're going to take the bait. They've already taken it. And there's going to be a switch moment. And guess who's going to switch? One of their people. And it's not going to be one. It's going to be multiple. I can't, and it's not about me, but someone like me, but someone way bigger than me. I can't exonerate President Trump. generals and admirals individually and collectively can't, because liberals and Democrats have zero respect for the military, and or they use it to gaslight, manipulate, and twist to fit their narratives, to fit their agendas. So generals and admirals even can't exonerate President Trump. Guess who exonerates President Trump? Their people do. And that's why, as my dad calls it, it's nut-cutting time for you real patriots, or those who think are patriots. It's nut-cutting time. You see all these people who are trying to, they're not joining Kid Rock's tour right now because of who Kid Rock is and what he represents. So see, it's nut-cutting time. Better choose your side of the line appropriately and accordingly. A lot of these artists out there, they're afraid of being canceled, and they don't have to be. But we're seeing who you are. It's recorded who you are. You're recording it. You're time-stamping it. And when you jump ship, you're time-stamping it forever in history. And you patriots out there need to remember it. You can forgive people, but you don't need to forget. Forgiving people is what led to the swamp. I mean, we had people leave like finance and go over to military. How are they even in the military department with no military experience whatsoever? Or they would be in something like, operations, and then they'd come over here to something just, I can't even make anything up. It's what President Trump said, the swamp. They just kept regurgitating each other and swapping each other around. They never fired them. They used all this publicity and drama to build their narratives. They used publicity against you, the people, and got you fighting over things that don't matter. So I highly suggest all you patriots, you need to learn how to twerk, or teach me how to. But I like the way I dance, because I can't dance, and that's what makes it more fun, because I can't dance, and I'm your typical white boy who can't dance, right? But, hey, paused again. Man, Instagram's eating me up tonight. So, but anyway. If you want these books, I've been getting a lot of messages. And Instagram paused again, but if you want these books, it's rattletrap1776.com. RATTLE, 2 T's, RATTLE, 1776.com. If you want them signed by me, I sign every book that comes through me. And then I also have my country music book, which is a #1 bestseller, but it does need more people reading it because it has all the secrets to how it's all rigged. The most family genre out there, country music, is the most woke, DEI, liberal garbage you've ever met, ever seen. And I have all the secrets to it. All of them. I've already been to the top. Already been there. So, yeah. Rattletrap1776.com. If you want me somewhere, I'm going to be in New York, April the 25th and 26th at an event there. And once I get the event name and everything, I'll post that. But if you're in New York or want to come to New York, I'm going to be up there April 25th and 26th. Pretty sure those are the dates. And so, like, if you want me somewhere nearby, I don't charge to speak, anything like that. I sell my books and my merchandise, and that's it. So, DerrickJohnsonCountry.com is how you can find my media contact, all that good stuff. And then make sure you're following the correct pages. There are a lot of scammers and frauds out there, unfortunately. They'll slice my videos, and they won't put these up. They won't put my links up. They won't, especially my link tree. But my link tree has all my official accounts, which will let you know who is and who ain't. If there's not a link on this link tree, it's not me. It's that simple. So my link tree, it'll be posted in the comment boxes, but link tree, LINKTR period is where the period goes. Like if you're typing that in your browser,
LINKTR period EE backslash, not a forward slash, make sure it's a backslash. Know the difference. Backslash 1776 nation. And that'll bring up all my official pages and all my official accounts. So, and then, hey, tag everybody on these videos. That's the easiest way to do it. Share it, but sharing sometimes, tag them, baby. Tag your family and friends. Challenge them. Tag them. Say, make that, like, maybe that's like your way of just being like pretentious or whatever. Just be like, oh, got you. Say, watch this. Or, because this one right here is fire, baby. Even with my dancing, it's fire.